Welcome to PI International Education and to our IELTS online course. In today's video, we'll do an introduction to the IELTS. We'll understand all about what the IELTS is and what you can expect from the exam. So we'll start with what it stands for. The IELTS stands for the International English Language Testing System, right? And the reason why people take the IELTS exam is because it helps students assess their language proficiency, right? So when you are applying to go to a different country where English is the main medium of communication, such as the United States, UK, Australia, Canada, etc., where their main language is English, then these countries and their institutions sometimes require to check if your English communication skills is strong enough for you to survive, live, work, or even study in their country. So IELTS exams are taken to prove that you have the capacity to speak and communicate and write in the English language up to the level that is required by their country, right? So who takes or who conducts these IELTS exams? Basically, the main center body for the IELTS is the Cambridge ESOL, right? And which centers give out these exams throughout the world? It is given through IDP and British Council. So these are the different aspects of what the IELTS is, why people give it. Now let's take a look at the different types of IELTS exams. The two different kinds of IELTS examinations that exist are the academic IELTS and the general training IELTS. So choosing which one to give will depend on why you are planning to take the IELTS. If you're thinking about studying in a different country, either for your undergrad or your master's degree or PhD or any sort of educational purpose for going to a different country where they require the IELTS, then you have to give your academic IELTS. And if you're going for a job purpose or for immigration purposes, then you have to give your general training IELTS. So depending on the reason why you want to shift or go or visit another country, you have to pick the right kind of IELTS. Within both of these two different types of IELTS, you will have to solve questions based on 4 different sections. For both of the academic and general training, you'll come across a listening test, a reading test, a writing test, and a speaking test. So these 4 modules will exist in both of these different kinds of IELTS. Now we'll take a look at each different section in turn to understand what you can expect in each of these different tests. Let's look at the listening test in detail now. So in the listening test, you will have 4 different sections. And in each section, you will first be asked to listen to an audio recording. And the audio recording could be a conversation between 2 people who are speaking about a particular topic. It could be something as simple as somebody calling a shop or a clerk in order to find out about a train schedule so that they can book a train ticket, right? Or it could be something more general. It could be about somebody calling up a courier service to ask if they've received a parcel or a package, right? Something which is very common and not too difficult or not completely out of the blue for you. So for most people, the kinds of topics that you come across will be very commonplace, very day-to-day topics, right? And because you have 4 sections, there will be different kinds of recordings. So some of the recordings will be somebody giving a monologue, right? They're talking about a particular topic. Some of them will have multiple people talking to each other in a group, like maybe 3 or 4 people discussing a specific issue. So you'll have different types of recordings, and you have to listen to these recordings, and then you have to answer a set of questions based on what you hear. So the trick here is to make sure that you are able to understand what is being said in the audio recording. And there are many tips and tricks which you will learn along this course, which will help you figure out how to capture that information from the audio recordings. So as soon as you finish listening to the audio, you will have a set of 40 questions in total in the listening test, right? And each of these, this entire 40 questions needs to be completed in a time of 40 minutes. You'll actually be given only 30 minutes to complete the entire section, and in the end, you'll be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers from your question sheet onto your final answer sheet. So while you're listening, you will be having to write down all of your answers in a particular sheet, and at the end, you'll be given 10 minutes to transfer those answers to another sheet. And there's a very good reason why they do this. It gives you the opportunity to check your answers and your spelling and make sure everything is fine. So it's a good thing that they give you those extra 10 minutes. Now, each of these questions, 40 questions that you get, have 1 mark each, which means no question is worth more than the other. Every single question has the same weightage, has the same mark, which is 1 mark. And at the end, out of 40 questions, whatever you get right or whatever is your score, it's converted into a band score out of 9. So the highest band score that you can get is 9 on the IELTS listening test. Let's move on to the next test now. Let's look at the reading test now. So in the reading test, you will be given passages, right? You'll be given comprehension passages similar to the ones you've solved in your high school or maybe in your university, or the regular passages that you get. The difference here will be that the kinds of questions that you will get are very specific, and you can actually prepare in advance for those types of questions, which you will be getting tips and tricks on in the other videos. So in the reading test, you'll get 3 sections, and those 3 sections consist of passages, and you'll get 40 questions to solve in 1 hour time. Each question has 1 mark, similar to your listening test. No question is worth more than the other, and in the end, out of those 40 questions, whatever you get will be converted into a band score out of a total of 9. So the highest you can score in your reading test also is out of a score of 9. Now, there's a small difference between the academic and general training reading passages. The differences mainly lie in, 1, the kind of topics that you get. In general training, the passages are more based on everyday situations and topics, common topics or general knowledge-based topics, which most people know about. And in academic reading, you get slightly more complex vocabulary, you get perhaps slightly more education-based or academic-based topics time to time. You may also get general knowledge-based topics just like general training, but your complexity of the different types of words and phrases might be a little harder. So the reading test is slightly different in terms of both the kinds of topics, the kind of language being used, and you might also see differences in the length of the paragraphs that appear in your academic and general training. In academic, they're slightly longer and you have a bit more complex vocabulary like I mentioned. Now let's take a look at the next section. Your next test is your writing test, which consists of basically 2 different questions or what we call tasks. So your task 1 is different for general training and academic IELTS. For task 1 in your writing section, in general training, you will be asked to write a letter. Now, this could be a very general letter, such as a letter to your friend, telling them how much you enjoyed the vacation with them, or it could be a letter of apology to, let's say, a colleague for upsetting them or arguing with them about a specific topic. It could be something such as asking or inquiring about a job application somewhere. So it could be any sort of topic that is commonplace and usually something that you see on a day-to-day basis. For general training, it is a letter. And for academic IELTS, you will get some sort of graphical representation of data or information. It could be in the form of a chart, a table, a graph, a pie chart, a histogram, which you have to then explain in words, right? So you have to look at the chart, look at the graph, and then explain what it shows or what information it's giving using words. So this is your task 1 in the writing section. Your task 2 is the same for both general training and academic, which is an essay. Now this essay will be based on a small prompt. You'll be given a specific question and you'll have to give your view on it. You could be asked to give your point of view or give your opinion on a specific topic, such as you might be given a statement. For example, it could be something as simple as the reason for traffic jams is increased population, and then you'll be asked to write an essay on that topic, right? So it's the same for both your general training and academic. Your task 1 has to be completed in a minimum of 150 words, which means if you write anything less than 150 words in task 1, you will be penalized for it. Your marks will be deducted. Your task 2 has to have a minimum of 250 words. You get a total of 20 minutes for task 1 and 40 minutes for task 2, which means that your total time for your writing section is 1 hour, right? Your task 2 has more mark weightage than task 1. This is because your task 2 carries almost 2/3 of your score for the writing band, and task 1 has 1/3. So a lot of times students try to attempt task 2 first, not only because it's easier in a way that it's just an essay, but in many cases they can prepare better for it, and because it has most of the marks, right? Your whole writing test is, again, just like your reading and listening, based on a band score of 9. So the highest score you can get in your writing section is out of 9. Let's take a look at the speaking test now. In the speaking part of your IELTS, you will have 3 parts. And before we go into each of those parts, we have to understand that the speaking test is very different from your writing and your reading and your listening, where you're actually sitting with a piece of paper and doing the test, right? In the speaking test, you will have to speak directly to an examiner who will be listening to the way you speak in the English language. So what can you expect on the speaking test? You will have 3 different parts. The first part is where the examiner will ask you a couple of general questions about you. What your name is, where you live, your hobbies, your interests, your job. So very general introductory questions, and that will last for about 4 to 5 minutes. The second part is where you'll be given a question with a couple of clues or hints as to the details you can add, and you will have to speak on that topic for about 2 minutes, right? So the topic could be something like explain or talk about your favorite holiday destination, right? And then you could be given details such as whom did you go with, where did you go, and why was it your favorite holiday destination. And you have to speak without any hesitation for 2 minutes. In the third part, the examiner will ask you questions based on your response in the second part, or they could also ask some questions that extend from that in a different way. So this is about your speaking test. In total, you will have about 11 to 14 minutes within which your speaking test will last. So these were the different sections on the IELTS examination. So these were the different sections that you have in your IELTS exam. Make sure that you prepare for them using the techniques that we provide. You'll see them in the rest of the videos, and there's nothing to fear about the IELTS. It's not a difficult examination. A lot of people who are from different countries, from different backgrounds, from different experiences have done really well in the IELTS. You just have to know exactly how to spend your time during the exam, and you have to know the secret techniques which you'll be learning very soon. So go watch the next couple of videos and learn how to score your target score in the IELTS. I'll see you in the next video.